Not many people are ready to hear information like that. They're not ready to hear there's such a thing as mind control, because it does paint a dark picture of what life on this world is about. When people hear the word occult and immediately associate that with the word evil, it means that they don't understand what the occult is, number one. Number two, it basically means that they're under a form of mind control through language, because the word occult simply means hidden. Occult simply means that which has been hidden from sight and reserved for a select group that has been initiated into said knowledge. When that happens, that knowledge could be used for great good or for great evil. And indeed, the occult encompasses both sides of that equation. We need to become more mature to understanding that there is a light side to the occult, and most certainly there is a dark side to the occult. Symbolism is all around us in our culture. It's everywhere. It's omnipresent. You can't go anywhere without seeing it, without it being used, and it's being used for specific purposes. The number one purpose of symbolism that is being used to subvert consciousness is to specifically target a need. Those who employ symbolism for targeted purposes are targeting needs in society. They are looking at specific needs that, for the most part, are not being met, or that need continuous meeting, that need continuous replenishment. So they're telling you that this is your compass for direction in life. This is what you need to pay attention to get to where you're going, particularly in today's culture when we know that the news is completely owned by globalist entities and by people who are really looking to subvert the freedoms of the people of the world through big banking corporations, intelligence agencies. This is who owns the news throughout the world. So we need to get down to causal factors if we're going to solve anything. And what we ultimately need to develop is the ability to distinguish truth from falsehood. And in a sea of information that we're being bombarded with, much of which is disinformation, that can be very difficult. But we can do this effectively the better we know ourselves and how our own consciousness works. So if we understand and delve into the human psyche and understand our primary motivational factors, root causal factors of what we experience and the things that actually go on in the human psyche, the mind, okay, and the deeper parts of the mind, the human subconscious as well, we will develop that awareness and we will be less likely to be manipulated or fall prey to the techniques of mind control. I think people only are recently coming on to its understanding in recent years, and it's relatively new to the human consciousness in general. I think what it's all ultimately about is there is a higher order of consciousness that is kind of attempting to show us the interconnectedness of things. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's completely directing everything. It's quite possible that that's what's happening, but I tend to lean more toward it is simply showing us how things are all interrelated with each other. And it is up to us to open up our minds more to become aware of these interconnections, and then we will understand the purpose or the underlying meaning that is contained in those events. People need to make their own choices and understand that they're not the only people in the world, nor are they God. That's what it all really comes down to. People are living as if they're God. You know, this rich, super rich, less than 0.01% of the population that basically owns all of the important resources of the world. That needs to stop. We can all have what we want and still be happy and thrive as long as we don't have this reptilian-brained directive impulse that says, I always have to have more. Doesn't make a difference what kind of monetary system is out there. It's going to fail and it's going to result in suffering. And this is what I just don't hear from the freedom movement people. They don't want to talk about consciousness and causality, causal factors. They want to avoid that because they want to be able to point the finger outward instead of turning it and pointing it at their own selves. because that's where true transmutation and change takes place, in one's own consciousness, in one's own mind, in one's own heart, and in one's own actions. So controlling our own thoughts, emotions, and actions, the only thing we're really allowed to control. Not many people are ready to hear information like that. They're not ready for it. They're not ready to hear there's such a thing as mind control, let alone something beyond that. Because it does paint a dark picture of what life on this world is about. I tell people, you want to hear a very accurate, allegorical picture of what's really going on in the world. The closest thing I could suggest to somebody, if you want the broad picture of what's really playing out here, and don't expect it to be something that's comfortable. It's quite disturbing, okay? You can't change the past, but you can do something to change the future if you have enough courage and you're willing to get involved.
It's time to wake up, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time to pull your support from this system and realize that we have been played on every single way you can imagine. Every single piece of information, every single book, every single government system, every single tool or division that they can think of has been used against us, and it's time for us to put it all down and return to ourselves and return to each other and return to our natural state of abundance, because that is where we belong. It is only this system that keeps us from that state. We don't need government, we don't need war, we don't need this monetary system, we don't need these rules. Integrity has no need of rules. We do not need to walk between the lines. What we need to do is remember who and what we are, put our differences aside, and all walk together to freedom. And if we can't learn to do that, then we're lost. You know, there's no remedy to be found through any type of system that anyone's going to offer anybody. There's no remedy to be found in any political movement. There's no remedy to be found by pushing your belief system on anybody. There just isn't. You know, people are going to believe different things because it's what they do. People have had access to different information. Even people who are researching whatever, they've all looked down different rabbit holes. They've all got access to different information. It doesn't matter. And the ultimate fact of the matter is that you just don't know anyway, because we can't rely on pretty well everything that we think we can rely on. We can't even rely on water being what we're told it is. So what can we rely on? You know, all we can rely on is ourselves and on each other. And that's been the message I've been attempting to share with people for so long. But my great hope and my great desire through all this is for people to put their differences down, to see the power within themselves, and to just express that. You know, see the power in yourself so you can see the beauty in others and just express it, folks. You don't need this system. You don't need to allow this world to continue going in the direction that it's going. And you can sit there and fight and argue about your belief systems all you want. It's still going in that direction. While you're sitting there arguing, that's what it's doing. It's still rolling itself out. And we have to stand up to it. But again, people need the support of the people around them. So put down all your stuff, folks. Stop fighting and get involved in your community, because we need everybody to do it, folks. We need people to pull their support from the system. It's all fiction anyway. Pull it away, pull your support from it, start supporting each other, and tell the government to go take a hike. We'll put them all on Christmas Island and they can have their war. We have the freedom to choose whether we want to comply with this system or not. We have the freedom to choose whether we want to support this type of corruption or not. The biggest problem, of course, is fear. Most people's fear of reprisal, fear of being locked in a cage, fear of whatever. Fear that if you actually speak your truth, someone will come and stomp you down. Well, yeah, maybe they will. You know, if you really look at the world, folks, what you have is a lot of really sad, lonely people wandering around and wondering why they feel so disconnected from each other. I've seen a bunch of really lonely people really searching for some meaning in their lives, not realizing that life itself holds its own meaning. The path itself is the meaning that they're looking for. You know, the discovery of themselves is the journey that they're on and the journey that they're trying to find. Very often people are wondering why they're here, and yet they're alive and they don't even know themselves, and they're questioning why they're here. Well, perhaps it's to get to know what you are, to get to know what it means to be conscious, to get to know what it means to interact with other versions of yourself, and to see how your actions actually affect reality in a positive way. or in a negative way, depending on what you do, but they actually have a profound effect on reality. You know, the things we say and do have a profound effect on the physicality around us. We might think that they don't, but really they do. If people haven't changed their heart space and changed their perspective, we're just going to end up back where we are. But if people were to change their heart space and change their perspective, we wouldn't have to change the system. The system would have to change around us. Because the only reason the system operates and continues the way it is because of our tolerance of wrong behaviour. So we need to stop that, you know. If we don't apply ourselves and we don't change our heart space, nothing's going to change. And if we do that, everything will change. And nothing else will bring about that change. There's no system anybody can put in place. If people haven't changed their perspective, then it's just going to lead back to where we are. Unfortunately, most people go through their lives acting as their own worst enemy because they beat themselves up so much about what they think they should be, when really what they should be and what they've always been is what they are, and that's all they ever need to be. It's just discovering the best way to be the best of that. That's the trick.